Of the IISS have anonymously spoken to reporters from the Imperial Herald, verifying that the Omega Grid system does exist and has been in use for many years.
Frameshift drive charging.
Alliance and Sirius agree defense pact. Sirius Corporation has signed an agreement to provide the Alliance with ships, materials and personnel to help combat the Thyroids.
4, 3, 2, 1.
The Alliance Assembly and the Council of Admirals held a rare joint vote on the issue of inviting the Megacorp to become a strategic defense partner. The motion was debated in private and reportedly passed by a slim majority. Prime Minister Edmund Mahon told the Alliance Tribune, "The danger posed by the Thyroids is increasing once more, perhaps accelerated by the loss of Aegis and a lack of any binding treaty between the superpowers. It is vital that we make a proactive decision to maintain security for Alliance
Frameshift drive charging.
systems. Sirius Corporation will work closely with the Alliance Defense Force to reinforce our member vessels, focusing exclusively on anti-Xeno operations. In return, new commercial
4, 3, 2, 1.
agreements will provide the company with increased access to certain financial endeavors. Councillor Nakato Kane spoke on behalf of several disapproving members of the Assembly. "We are already too entwined with this regional corporate giant, so to hand our defences over to them is another blow to the Alliance's identity. It is also convenient that the details of the pact remain classified under military restrictions. We don't even know what price we're paying to hire Sirius to be our guard dog." A retrospective
Frameshift drive charging.
of 3307, Part 3. Seema Kalhana reviews the most newsworthy events of the past year in this series of articles. July began badly for the Federation, with more
4, 3, 2, 1.
factions seceding in response to the Proactive Detection Bureau's establishment. The newly independent nation severed all links with these new surveillance efforts, inspiring many other systems to do likewise. This secession crisis would rumble on for the rest of the year. The Blue Viper Club, one of the rarely seen Dredger clans, joined forces with the Kumo crew to manufacture a medicinal drug that turned out to be a new strain of onion head. The drug would ultimately end up being legally distributed by Neomedical Industries, causing Archon Delane to seek revenge against the corporation.
Frameshift drive charging.
Tensions soared in the Marlinist colonies during an election for the head of their diplomatic consulate. Aaron White's candidate had the support of an Imperial senator, which would have given the Neo-Marlinists
4, 3, 2, 1.
a powerful voice within the Empire. When a more moderate candidate was elected, the NMMA reacted by bombing both Marlinist starports, murdering tens of thousands including First Minister Jenna Fairfax. It seemed Theta 7's extremist views allowed anyone to be targeted as an enemy, even his fellow Marlinists. The Civil War concluded in August, with White killed in battle as his supporters were overcome in direct combat. Following accusations of incompetence regarding the vanished Alexandria megaship, Aegis was officially suspended and subjected to a board of inquiry. This would have ramifications for the ongoing conflict with the Thyroids, and encouraged Salvation to position himself as an alternative. In the corporate sphere, Zemina Torval created a new subsidiary of Mastopoulos Mining that would eventually become an autonomous company. There were rumors that the Torval and Mastopoulos families were now at loggerheads after decades of working in unison. In September, the mystery of Heifet's cache was finally unlocked. The trail led to revelations of dark experiments which are believed to have involved human test subjects and Thyroid technology. When the Thyroids themselves appeared en masse in the Cornsar system, Salvation was ready for them. An anti-Xeno superweapon of undisclosed nature was deployed, wiping out some of the aliens and driving away the rest. It seemed that the self-titled man of science had developed something revolutionary, inspiring many to place their faith in him to end the Thyroid menace once and for all.
Frameshift drive charging.
Devals gather to celebrate New Year. Princess Aisling de Val marked the start of 3308 by introducing her cousin Hadrian de Val, his wife, and then
4, 3, 2, 1.
the born son to Imperial High Society. Entertainment journalist Solomon Helios broadcast a report on the event. It's an annual tradition for Princess Aisling to invite the great and the good to her palace of Emerald, although the tragic loss of her father in 3306 meant that last year's
System scan complete.
gathering was cancelled. This year she made up for it with a sumptuous, glittering celebration of the kind that we Imperials are famed for. For the first
Frameshift drive charging.
time, Hadrian de Val and Lady Astrid Minerva de Val were in attendance. This youthful couple were surprisingly charming for a pair who would once have been arrested on sight. They entertained guests with
4, 3, 2, 1.
stories of trading and fighting aboard tiny ships from the days when their only title was commander. However, the real guest of honor spent most of his time asleep, oblivious to the colossal attention he drew. Yes, baby Hector made his very first public appearance, having been born while his parents were under senatorial protection. Many dignitaries insisted on having their image recorded beside the future emperor, a phrase one could hear being murmured throughout the palace. But what of the current emperor? Unlike Hadrian's family, Arisa Lavigny de Val remains in seclusion and only communicates remotely with the Senate. Now that the terrorists have been quelled, surely the time has come for Her Imperial Majesty to reappear before her loyal subjects? A retrospective of 3307, Part 4. The last in a series that reviews the events of the past year, by noted historian
Frameshift drive charging.
Seema Kalhana. October brought further controversy for the Federation, when a diplomatic conference in the Delta Pavonis system was revealed to be a honey trap designed to capture Yuri Grom. Only a Russian
4, 3, 2, 1.
support for EG Union allowed their ruler to escape, causing political embarrassment for President Hudson. There was more corporate drama when Zemina Torval relinquished her long-held majority shareholding in Mastopolis Mining, fueling rumors of a family rift with her cousins. Torval Mining Limited became a fully independent corporation run by her daughter Constantia. The Colonia Bridge project officially started the first of two phases this year, which would see the construction of 56 megaships between the Alcor and Colonia systems. Brewer Corporation enjoyed great public support for improving this travel corridor along the 22,000 light-year journey, and revealed plans to enhance it further in the new year. Hadrian de Val, his wife Lady Astrid, and their unborn child were the specific targets of another starport bombing by the NMLA. It proved unsuccessful, but did result in the Imperial Senate offering them protection in order to secure the de Val bloodline. It also led to a manhunt for Theta 7, the galaxy's most wanted terrorist. In November, Orion University claimed that the dredger occupied by the Scrivenus clan was legally their property, but the nomadic descendants of its original crew refused to give up their home. The standoff caught the public attention, with some supporting the clan's right to independence and others keen to discover what their knowledge core contained. Ultimately, the Scriveners retained their freedom, sailing off into the void with their secrets intact. Many were shocked when Admiral Tanner, Aegis's military chief, went rogue and tried to force access to a starport controlled by Salvation's allies. His conviction that the anti-Xeno superweapons were responsible for provoking the Thyroids was, however, not enough to win the day. The NMLA threw everything they had at the Mudrid system in an attempt to rescue Theta 7, who was hiding among the Far God cult to avoid capture. But the terrorists were crushed by ACT and a coalition of ships, with Theta 7 martyring himself by destroying
Frameshift drive charging.
hijacked megaship Sacrosanct. A happier event in December was the birth of Hector de Val, son and heir of Hadrian and Lady Astrid. There were celebrations across the Empire, but also questions.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Asked about the future of the de Val dynasty and if the child might one day inherit the imperial throne. The year ended as it had begun, with with Thyroid vessels swarming into nebula systems. But with incursions steadily increasing over recent months, there were fears that this time they might prove unstoppable. Salvation's superweapons were once again deployed to halt the aliens' progress, but will they be enough to prevent the Thyroids from threatening humanity in 3308? A retrospective of 3307, Part 2. Continuing a series of articles by historian Seema Kalhana that look at the most newsworthy events during the past year. April 3307 saw the creation of the Federation's Proactive Detection Bureau in reaction to the 9 Martyrs bombings. This organization monitored all public and private communications for evidence of terrorists to prevent similar attacks in future. But its highly controversial nature would soon present the Federation with new challenges. ACT's investigation led them to the Neo-Marlinist Order of Madrid, which had helped to deliver the caustic enzyme bombs to their 9 targets. The faction's defeat was an early victory against the NMMA, but much of the organization remained a mystery. When the ghost ship Adamasta began receiving an encoded signal, this began an entire saga of mysteries. Its long-lost sister ship, the
Frameshift drive charging.
was soon located by pilots who had been recruited by an anonymous figure named Salvation. His interest in Azimuth Biochemicals, the 200-year-old corporation that owned both vessels, would put
4, 3, 2, 1,
a strange twist to the ongoing Thyroid conflict. In May, Hadrian Duval was targeted by federal forces after accusations that he was the mastermind behind the NMMA. The specter of Empire Federation war rose once again as Nova Imperium successfully defended itself, but ACT concluded that evidence had been falsified to implicate Hadrian and his new wife Lady Astrid. Aegis came under intense scrutiny when the megaship Alexandria, laden with newly collected Guardian artifacts, began attracting Thyroids in every system it jumped to. The Alexandria later vanished completely in hyperspace, and to this day remains missing, presumed destroyed. The Alliance election finally took place at the end of May, having been delayed by 3 months due to the Galactic Summit. Councillor Nakato Kane fought a spirited campaign, but Edmund Mahn was re-elected to serve a second term as Prime Minister. Supporters of Neo-Marlinism gained a voice in June, when Minister Aaron White offered a peace deal with the Empire to prevent further terrorism. The idea of a political wing of the NMLA gained support from those fearing further bombings, but opened major rifts within the Marlinist colonies. Salvation once again contacted pilots to track down survivors from the Hesperus. This led to the discovery of an ancient Guardian Thyroid battleground, where Azimuth scientists had built a research base around their vessel Proteus. All were killed by unusual experiments into weaponizing Guardian crystals. The Proactive Detection Bureau had been generally accepted by federal citizens, but many claimed it was a violation of civil liberties. Halfway through the year, the Azalachu Free faction took the bold step of seceding from the Federation, thus triggering the possibility of mass rebellion. A retrospective of 3307, Part 1. The noted historian Seema Kalhana takes a look back at the turbulent events of the last year in a 4-part series of articles. The start of 3307 was a time of crisis. The rise of the Neo-Marlinist Liberation Army, the Marlinist refugee crisis and increased Empire Federation tensions had brought a full-scale superpower war closer, with renewed attacks from the Thyroids increasing the pressure. All of this led to Pranav Antar's proposal of a diplomatic conference for all 3 superpower governments to work through their problems, the very first Galactic Summit. Within weeks, Sirius Corporation was selected as the neutral host for the conference. Leon Rui scored another triumph by establishing the Marlinist colonies for millions of political refugees who had fled from the Empire. In February came the trial of Fleet Admiral Vincent, accused of arranging Starship One's destruction back in 3301. His paymaster was revealed as Core Dynamics CEO Jupiter Rochester, who wanted to replace federal democracy with direct corporate rule. His breakaway faction Jupiter Division was defeated in battle and Rochester himself jailed for life. This also led to Core Dynamics' acquisition of Lakon Spaceways being cancelled, leaving the Alliance to purchase a majority sharehold in the company. Key players on the political
Frameshift drive charging.
stage finally gathered when the Galactic Summit began in late February. The Sirius system hosted leaders from the Alliance, Empire, Federation and Independent systems. Even pirate warlord
4, 3, 2, 1.
The Archon delayed gate-crashed the event, causing controversy with his Crown of Bones speech. It seemed for a while that the bickering between so many strong personalities might trigger a war rather than avert one. But gradually there was progress, with the possibility of a treaty to increase unity against the Thyroid threat. But before reaching this conclusion, the Galactic Summit was derailed by a threat from another source. 9 Martyrs, as named by the NMLA leader Theta 7, was the largest terrorist attack in history. Hundreds of thousands were killed by starport bombings in 9 systems, including the superpowered
Frameshift drive charging.
capitals of Alioth, Akanar, and Sol. This horrific tragedy ended the conference abruptly, but did give rise to some interpower cooperation. A new agreement signed at the Galactic Summit allowed the
4, 3, 2, 1.
affiliated counter-terrorism unit to be formed rapidly. Drawing on the superpower's security services and other organizations, its sole purpose was to hunt down and eliminate the NMLA, a task that would dominate the headlines for the rest of the year. Galnet, apology for unauthorized broadcasts. Pilots Federation alert. The Galnet editorial team expresses its sincere regret that further unscheduled messages have been recently published. A second batch of riddles were unlawfully transmitted across Galnet public feeds on the 24th, 25th, and 26th of December. As with the 3 previous broadcasts, they were designed to invite independent pilots to locate a series of concealed caches. Our technical teams have identified the method by which the criminal known as the Winking Cat inserted unapproved articles into Galnet's publication network. Security protocols have been heavily reinforced, and we are confident that no further intrusions will take place. Galnet offers formal apologies to all members
Frameshift drive charging.
of the Pilots Federation for this disruption. The Winking Cat's treasure hunt. Pilots Federation alert. Eric Gunnarsson of the Wall Glass Investigations Agent
4, 3, 2, 1.
He provides an overview of the Winking Cat's latest escapade. The meaning of the message scrawled on the back of the Joker's deck ceremonial playing card has become clear. This time, the galaxy's most infamous last nest is actually giving away treasure rather than stealing it. 3 mysterious riddles were somehow inserted into the Galnet feed over the last week. Commanders have reported that clues within these riddles led them to 3 concealed caches, each in a different system. According to the dates specified by the Winking Cat, these 3 caches will only be operational for a 2-week period, ending on the 30th of December. We can then deduce that caches 4, 5 and 6 will activate today, and likewise remain available for the next 2 weeks. This is not the first philanthropic gesture from the Winking Cat. The long-lost painting Pennant Street reappeared in 3305 alongside the thief's signature graphic of a cheeky feline face, but this is a more generous giveaway.
Frameshift drive charging.
Some even see it as a redistribution of wealth, noting that the Winking Cat only ever targets corporations, governments, or super-rich individuals. New phase for
4, 3, 2, 1.
Alliance-Sirius Partnership. The Alliance Assembly has invited Sirius Corporation to collaborate on enhancing protection for member systems against the Thyroids. Political journalist Vanya Driscoll reported on the development for the Alliance Tribune. Sirius Corporation has been a key partner in
System scan complete.
Alliance's expansion program. Most notably, its subsidiary Sirius Atmospherics helped establish colonies in the Colsac Nebula to support meta-alloy harvesting. But according to insiders, The suspension of Aegis and the increasing Thyroid presence has raised fears that Alliance systems may be vulnerable to Xeno invasion. This has led to Prime Minister Edmund Mahn suggesting a strategic defense contract with the megacorp. In response, CEO Li Yongrui himself has traveled to the Alioth system. It's understood that high-level discussions are taking place on ways in which the company might augment the Alliance Defense Forces' capabilities. Councillor Nakito Kane, Mahn's
Frameshift drive charging.
political rival, has repeated her claim that Sirius Corporation has a disturbing amount of influence over some council members. She fears that private agreements are being made behind closed doors and has called for
4, 3, 2, 1.
increased transparency. Galnet, unauthorized messages. Pilots Federation alert. The editorial team at Galnet would like to apologize for the recent articles originating from an unofficial source. On the 17th, 18th and 19th of December, our publication network transmitted text messages of unknown origin. These articles were not officially commissioned or approved, and should not have been available via Galnet channels. Galnet formally apologizes to all commanders for this unprecedented disruption to our regular service. As yet we have no explanation as to how these illicit transmissions were inserted into our regular feeds. Our technical teams are currently investigating, and we are confident that this situation will not reoccur.
Frameshift drive charging.
Thyroid presence persists in multiple systems. Pilots Federation alert. The Colsac, Pleiades and Witchhead nebulas continue to see an influx of Thyroid vessels. Freelance
4, 3, 2, 1.
War correspondent Ernesto Rios reported for Vox Galactica. Over the last few months, Thyroid ships have appeared in over 24 populated systems including Shin, Pleiades Sector IVC-25 and Colsac Sector Lu OB-66. All are in the vicinity of nebulas, which seem to be favored by the Thyroids. In some systems, organized task forces of independent pilots have successfully hunted and destroyed the invaders. But in others, their efforts are undone by Thyroid reinforcements continually dropping out of hyperspace. There have been public demands to know why more superweapons have yet to be deployed. However, Salvation has not responded to this. Some of his supporters
Frameshift drive charging.
believe that it takes time to stockpile the weapon's resources, while others maintain that Salvation is focused on a master plan to permanently eliminate the Thyroid threat. Until then, individual commanders and anti-Xeno squadrons remain fighting on the front line against the escalating Thyroid incursion. Theta 7's identity discovered. ACT has revealed the background of the man known only as Theta 7, the NMLA's de facto leader who recently died in the Madrid system. Captain Saskia Landau gave this statement to the media. A combination of investigative work and interrogating NMLA survivors has allowed us to confirm that Theta 7's
Frameshift drive charging.
real name was John Tyburn. He was born and raised in the city of Fontaine on the planet Baltazine, where he was a munitions technician constructing demolition charges for commercial mining. There is evidence
4, 3, 2, 1.
that Tyburn was always a vocal believer in Marlinism and became a pro-democracy campaigner. This eventually caused him to lose his job and serve a prison sentence for sedition. His imperial citizenship was revoked, his marriage annulled, and his children taken into state care. Upon
System scan complete. Warning, taking heat damage.
Tyburn was contacted by the NMLA and radicalized to the neo-Marlinist cause. He produced portable explosives for terrorist actions and rose rapidly in their ranks. It was Tyburn's proposal to develop caustic enzyme bombs capable of damaging a starport, but his experimentation on these weapons resulted in injuries and corrosive scarring. They only became a reality following a workable design commissioned from the engineer Liz Ryder without her knowledge of its purpose. First Minister Octavia Volkov of the Marlinist colonies commented, "It's unsettling to learn that this arch-terrorist grew up in the same place as I did and had similar experiences. John Tyburn might easily have been my fellow refugee from the Empire, or perhaps helped us form a Republican society. This does not excuse his crimes, but it's all too clear how political persecution can give rise to monsters. Salvation recruits naval crews. The recent counterstrike against the Thyroids has revealed that Salvation is being unofficially supported by trained military personnel. Commodore Morag Halloran was a senior officer with the Alliance Defense Force who is now working for Salvation. She sent this statement to the media. Over the last few years, I have fought hard to
Frameshift drive charging.
protect allied interests from the Thyroids. But every battle against them felt like a defensive measure, a holding action. I'm convinced that these creatures are more than capable of wiping us all out.
4, 3, 2, 1.
When an entire Thyroid fleet was forced out of the Corsair system in September, I approached the Council of Admirals about sending ships to help, but my proposal was rejected. Then Salvation contacted me
Warning. Temperature critical.
directly, saying that he required military leadership and my
System scan complete.
experiences in the Corsair Nebula made me an ideal candidate. Along with Lieutenant Commander Glynn and nearly 100 crewmates, we resigned our commissions and headed for Hindmine. I now command many others who were recruited from the Federal, Imperial and Sirius navies to serve on the Taurus megaships and elsewhere. I'm aware that some will view my actions as dereliction of duty, but I believe our true duty is to stop the Thyroids at any cost. And as our recent success proves, only Salvation has the means of doing so. The Alliance Assembly, Federal Congress and Imperial Senate have all acknowledged
Frameshift drive charging.
loss of some military personnel to Salvation's cause. While efforts are being made to prevent further losses, it is rumored that potential concessions include official support for Salvation's anti-Xeno activities.
4, 3, 2, 1.
NMLA megaship becomes Marlinist flagship. The megaship Steel Majesty has traveled from Madrid to the HIP 22550 system and been renamed as Fairfax Vision. The world-class carrier was originally owned by the Neo-Marlinist Order of Madrid and used as a base for the NMLA terrorist group. After a military defeat, the vessel's crew sought political asylum in the Marlinist colonies. The Steel Majesty later became the hub for Minister Aaron White's followers during the Marlinist Civil War. More recently, NMLA activists retook the ship and unsuccessfully tried to rescue their leader Theta 7. The Marlin Standard published this statement from First Minister Octavia Volkov. I am delighted that the Marlinist consulate has negotiated with the Epsilon Fornarchis Empire Group to arrange for this megaship to be returned to us. We are renaming it in honor of my predecessor, Dr. Jenna Fairfax, who led millions to safety after our mass exodus from the Empire. The Fairfax Vision is now controlled by the Free Marlinists of Carini faction, but will represent the colony's parliamentary and diplomatic interests abroad. I hope that true Marlinism, and our progressive Republican society, can now flourish peacefully. A gift from a thief. Pilots Federation alert. Detective Eric Gunnarsson has claimed that the Winking Cat thief has something planned for the weeks ahead. After our investigation into the Joker's deck gambling circle, Wolf and I were hired to track down their stolen ceremonial playing card. The good news is that we now have the card in our possession. We can hardly claim credit, however. It was posted to us by the one who stole it. The ancient Joker card arrived via a courier service, with no data as to its point of origin. But the playing card now has text stamped on the back, which I'm convinced is intended to be a public message. It simply reads "The hunt is on" and is followed by two sets of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 16th to 30th, 4, 5, 6, 23rd to 6th. At the bottom is a drawing of, you guessed it, a smirking, winking cat's face. It's speculation, of course, but some of these numbers must be dates. Perhaps this hunt is scheduled to happen over the next 3 weeks. Are we being invited to hunt the winking cat, or will something else be the prize? The feline thief has been busy of late, purloining everything from prized artwork to prototype robots. Entertainment mogul Oscar Goldson recently reported that his private collection of rarities had been hit, and there are rumors that World Craft Corporation's vaults were somehow broken into. How that crime spree connects to this message is a mystery that we've yet to crack. The triumph of Salvation. Salvation has confirmed that his anti-Xeno superweapon successfully routed Thyroids from the Delphi, Maya and Merip systems. The following message was submitted to all news feeds. The Thyroid spearhead into human space has been severely blunted. Commodore Halloran coordinated the operation with military precision, and many loyal pilots acted swiftly to provide components for my unique technology. At present, I am not able to deploy these weapons in other systems suffering alien infestation. Next year, we will deliver a decisive blow in the war against the Thyroids. I urge the peoples of the galaxy to unite behind my crusade. Aegis is finished. I am the only remaining defense for humanity. I am Salvation. Independent pilots and anti-Xeno squadrons have been asked to continue combating the remaining Thyroid vessels in the Colsac, Pleiades and Witchhead Nebula regions. Repair efforts are also still required in the Delphi, Maya and Merip systems. Thyroids repulsed from 3 systems. Pilots Federation alert. Salvation's anti-Xeno superweapons have cleared most Thyroid vessels from the Delphi, Maya and Merip systems. Pilots were asked to transport classified experimental equipment from the heart of Taurus in the Karato system to 3 other megaships owned by Taurus Mining Ventures. These components were used to prepare the large-scale weapons developed by Salvation to affect Thyroid technology. Vox Galactica published an intercepted message from Commodore Morag Halloran, commanding officer of the Musashi, to the Bright Sentinel and Glorious Prospect megaships. This is Halloran. Operation Tri-Hammer has concluded with a code White 3 Alpha. Estimated target destruction in Delphi is at 27%, with full dispersal of 98% of remaining hostiles. Scans underway for non-combatant disruption or casualties. Maya and Merib data to be submitted immediately to Central Analytics. Independent observers have reported that the majority of all Thyroid ships in the 3 systems have abruptly departed, with some wreckages found on planetary surfaces. This closely matches the event in the Cornsar system in September, when the anti-Xeno superweapon was first deployed. Pilots are requested to help with repair and rescue efforts for starports damaged by the Thyroids, Donar's Oak and the Oracle in the Delphi system, Obsidian Orbital in the Maya system, and Reed's Rest in the Merip system. The Death of Theta 7. The NMLA's de facto leader and his closest followers have sacrificed themselves by destroying the Far God cult's megaship Sacrosanct. The hijacked vessel had been taken to the Mudrid system by the remaining members of Theta Group, aiming to reunite with the NMLA. After this failed, ACT forces surrounded the Sacrosanct in the hope of rescuing the several thousand cultists being kept as hostages. Theta 7 broadcast a short video message, where he uttered a single phrase, "The future will remember us." He was then seen to manually detonate a series of bombs, which ruptured the Sacrosanct's hull and split the vessel in 2.
Frameshift drive charging.
It is believed that the weapons also distributed Thyroid caustic enzymes throughout the megaship, thereby killing its entire population. ACT has released a statement from co-leader Captain Saskia Landa.
Ready to engage.
Oh, tragic.
4, 3, 2, 1.
We were unable to save the lives of the Far God worshippers, despite several attempts to negotiate their safe conduct off the ship. Captain Castile's commando unit could not gain entry to the Sacrosanct in time, and we had no success trying to hack into its onboard computers. We can confirm that the most wanted terrorist in the galaxy is dead. But ACT's task is not yet complete, since there is much we still don't know about the NMLA. Our investigation will focus on learning more about their background, as well as targeting any surviving cells of activists. Intrigue surrounds recovered art treasure. Recent evidence suggests that some of the precious items stolen by the Winking Cat had been sold to private collectors. Crime correspondent Mira Bukovsky has been following the story for Vox Galactica. When the FIA raided the home of media magnate Elias Metaxas, they found the painting Terra Absentia by Zoe Okeki hanging in his chambers, a painting stolen by the Winking Cat in 3305. Metaxas confessed to purchasing the famous artwork for 22 billion credits via a series of anonymous dealers, none of whom could be traced. Coincidentally, there are rumors that an imperial senator keeps some statues resembling the missing New Dawn collection hidden within her mountainside chalet. And only recently, multi-billionaire Zachary Rackham was overheard inviting an investor to come up and see my Guernica. It seems that the thief has secretly sold these highly valuable treasures to private collectors. However, this is not typical behavior for someone believed to be a genuine connoisseur of fine art as well as a skilled larcenist. Perhaps there is an urgent need for huge sums of money, and since Winking Cat has never stolen anything as vulgar as mere credits, this is the most ideal method. But what might the notorious criminal be planning? Vodal releases Scorpion SRV. SRV manufacturer Vodal today announced the official release of its new vehicle, the Scorpion. The first new mass production model offered by the company in many years, the Scorpion is designed for combat operations and troop support. It is widely understood that Vodal's acquisition by Core Dynamics in 3300 standoff for ACT and Theta 7. Terrorist ringleader Theta 7 is defying capture by holding thousands of Far God cultists hostage in the Madrid system. Vox Galactica published an on-the-scene report from freelance journalist Redmond O'Hara. Although the enemy
cannot comply.